only mode.
Hi, this is Dave Farmer. We have a webinar today with Eric Simmons. He's from Hunter Industry. He's a specification representative in the Chicago area. And he's going to fill us in on some of the new stuff that Hunter has. It's going to be an addition to their very, very popular MP Rotator system. An interesting remote control that I consider very cost-effective. A lot of us have to deal with battery-operated controllers, and he has a solution that would be, instead of a battery, a solar operation, or in conjunction with a battery, a little solar situation, which puts my mind at ease whenever I'm talking battery-operated things. And then a very interesting solution for drip line with something called an EcoMap. Now, if you have any questions, you can type them in on the question toolbar portion of this GoToMeeting that you're at, and Katie will, or myself, will be monitoring those questions as we go along. And when we find a break in Eric's discussion here, we'll go ahead and break in and say, we have this question for you, Eric, and then he can answer it, and the same thing for me, because when he's done presenting these for you, I'm going to take over the screen and show you in AutoCAD how to add this particular equipment in that we're going to talk about. So I think it's going to be very interesting. They have some very exciting new features in irrigation. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is turn the screen and everything back to Eric Simmons of Hunter Industries.
All right, thank you, Dave. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Dave. Welcome, everyone. Let me switch over here.
And I can see your screen now.
Okay, good. Let me get over to, here we go. Welcome. As Dave mentioned, I'm coming to you from the Chicago area today, where I've taken a break from working on my arc out in the backyard to just spend some time with you going over some exciting new products that Hunter Industries has introduced to the market. Things have been a little wet, a little tough to sell irrigation right about now. Everybody seems to have forgotten the severe droughts we had last summer here, because we are getting an abundance of rain. But anyway, we're going to talk about a couple of kind of specifically a few product areas that we want to focus on today, and we'll dive right in here. A little bit of brief background on Hunter for those of you that may or may not be that familiar with our company. This is our global distribution and main headquarters building in San Marcos, California. Hunter Industries is a family-owned global company that provides high-quality, efficient solutions for the irrigation, outdoor lighting, and custom molding industries. Hunter is headquartered in San Marcos, as I mentioned, and we've established in 1981. Hunter is a market leader in producing and marketing a full range of water-efficient, easy-to-use irrigation solutions for residential, commercial, and golf course applications. Ed Hunter, the founder of Hunter Industries, interestingly, at the time of his passing back in the mid to late 90s, he had 160 manufacturing patents, 100 of which were irrigation related. So kind of an interesting, quite an inventor, quite an innovator, obviously. This building that you're looking at is, I just wanted to point out the fact that this is actually a LEED certified gold building. We're pretty proud of that. Been in the building now for about 4 years, and we're actually providing power back to the San Marcos area. We're using both light harvesting as well as solar panels, and I think it has a 140,000 square foot building here, so we're kind of doing our part. A little bit of an aerial shot of the Hunter campus, again in San Marcos, California. That's where we do a lot of our manufacturing, all of our R&D work. Just kind of run through what you're looking at here. We've got the original main building where much of our manufacturing still takes place. We've got large engineering staff, obviously, that working on constantly developing new products and innovating the existing line. And then we go to our tooling building, which a lot of people don't know that we actually create a lot of our own. We build our own manufacturing. We build our own machines, our own dies. We do our own tooling right in-house, which is something that's really impressive when you're touring the facility. To see that we actually do all, I would say, majority of that in-house still. Then we go over to our micro spray manufacturing, where we actually manufacture our inline drip tubing, and that's all put together and manufactured in that building. Some of the products of which we'll talk about today. We've got our fitness center, which is really key for all of our employees to right on campus to be able to take their lunch break and go over and get a workout in. So that's a nice perk for some of the staff at the facility. And we go up to our golf manufacturing and molding. We do our golf up at that building. And again, the building you saw previously, the main global distribution center. You see all the solar panels up on the roof there. And again, a second engineering building up at the top there. We just house additional engineering staff. So as you can imagine, we employ a large number of engineers at Hunter. So we're going to talk about the MP 3500 was introduced this past winter, and it was something that we've been working on for quite some time. You know, the MP Rotator line was acquired by Hunter a number of years ago, probably about 7 years ago now. And you know, since that time, we've been kind of looking at the line has been wildly successful, as many of you are aware, and we're just looking for ways to expand on that and to add value to this particular line of products. So the MP 3500 is a longer range. We're looking at 31 feet to 35 feet that we've been able to add to this product line and still maintain the same high performance, you know, low precipitation rate that everybody's come to expect from the MP Rotator. So this is a nice addition, gives us, kind of expands the design capability of the line, and just gives you some more options. I mean, some more tools in the toolbox. Again, we're getting out to that 35-foot range, so we can continue to kind of move into the rotor areas a little bit more, the large turf areas, and continue, and which have been tricky when you're dealing with trying to save water. Sometimes those large turf areas end up having to be reduced in order to achieve the water savings. Whereas now we can maybe leave a little bit more of that turf in and water it with an MP 3500. All the same features. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I was just thinking 35 feet, you know, 30 to 35 feet is your maximum. What is your minimum for this range of head?
For the 3500 or just the MP line?
Well, no, just the MP line.
Yeah, we're down. The MP corner can get down to about an 8-foot, an 8-foot radius on that. When it's
the 1000. What sort of is
the 1000 is
the low for that?
About 10 feet. So we're really, you know, the corner, yeah.
So you're basically saying this is I would say is a excellent alternative to a spray system. It's certainly much more accurate.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, Dave. And again, might even start to, you know, you could consider using this in lieu of a gear-driven rotor, which obviously is also a very efficient device, but again, just can't quite reach this type of performance, this half-inch or less. Which at the MP 3500 we're still below that half-inch per hour precipitation rate, which is critical, obviously, for a high-performance, high-efficiency nozzle. So, and we've got it's color-coded in the light brown color, which is one of the nice features about the MP family, is everything's color-coded. So, when from an installation standpoint, very easy to identify and install, and once you get familiar with the colors. I want to point out, I mean, I know everyone is probably fairly familiar with the MP line at this point. I know my counterpart in California, Chris Rosink, did a webinar for you guys late last year, which really went through the line in detail. I did want to point out that the retrofitability of the MP has been part of its success. It's just that we can go into existing sites that may not have Hunter spray bodies installed. You may have a different manufacturer that has male threaded bodies, spray bodies, in which case we do manufacture for those as well, and we offer those, as you can see here, with the HT designation. So it's a great way to go in and retrofit existing sites and make them more efficient as well. So going through, touch on a couple of the key points with the MP Rotator line, just the debris resistance, some of the reasons why it is such a successful, such a durable product for us and for the industry. There's only one moving part. The main stator that's in the center of the MP Rotator, which controls the flow, is actually the only moving part within the device. And then we've got you can see the different cuts to those different, each one of those different channels coming off of that nozzle head is what produces all the different trajectories, which hit all the different ranges throughout the arc of the water. Large water droplets obviously is key when you're fighting wind, which is one of the advantages of the MP Rotator. And we've got 25 years of development with this product line. A key advantage that is important to point out also is just the double pop that we have with the MP Rotator, which is unique to this product. It prevents the clogging. Is obviously one of the key things you don't want to have with these channels in this nozzle. You want to make sure those are clear. And the way we do that is by providing this double pop, which when the body pressurizes, the stem pops first, and then the MP Rotator opens up once it's pressurized up above all the mulch, the soil, the gravel, wherever it might be installed, or the sand. So you never get any of that debris making contact with those nozzles whatsoever. And as it retracts, it's the same process. The MP Rotator seats first, and then the body retracts down into the ground. So just clogging becomes a non-issue because of that patented double pop. Water conservation obviously has been the key to the success of this product line. It's been with lead products or projects, excuse me. It's kind of the first thing we gravitate to when we're trying to save some significant amounts of water. Again, and you can see why for some of these reasons. Looking at some intake rates versus other types of products, conventional sprays obviously are way up there. The MP Rotator is just, again, a phenomenal performance, and there really isn't anything out there on the market that even comes close to the performance of this product currently. So it's really just a great tool for all of us to be able to prevent this type of thing from happening on our sites. We don't want to have that type of runoff, obviously, or that erosion that we're seeing, and the MP Rotator can significantly reduce both of these situations. Some interesting case studies that we've been involved with and we've been able to pull together. This was a site in California where just monitoring their water usage over the course of the last 4 years, up in 2010 here, you can see where when they swapped out the MP Rotators and included that and coupled that with a solar sync, our ET-based on-site sensor, we dropped significantly in water usage from 2009 to 2010 in a 65% reduction in water just in that 1 year. And similarly, we did a similar site study here in Chicago at the Walgreens corporate headquarters, where they wanted to look at these same effects. So we isolated a part of their campus, did the same thing. We swapped out sprays for MP Rotators and put in a solar sync on that particular area. And again, once we did a full year's analysis of their water usage, and we had a 47% reduction in water usage at Walgreens. So that resulted in them specifying, moving forward, MP Rotators and solar sinks on every new store, as well as retrofitting them onto existing stores. So pretty nice success story there for the MP. And get some examples of even golf courses we're finding they're wildly used in the bunker areas just for the slow precipitation rate and the fact that we're putting water down so slowly. You can really maintain these sloped areas a lot nicer. Excuse me. And wanted to make sure and touch on a new installation. It's just critical that the MPs get installed on a Hunter Pro Spray PRS 40, which is pressure regulated at 40 psi, which is the optimal pressure range for the MP rotator line for the entire line. So anytime there's a new install, you just want to really specify it along with this particular body. And it's easily identifiable by that gray color in the field. Now the MP rotator is fine at a 30 or even up to a 50 psi, but it's gonna impact that performance just a little bit, obviously in the field. So we can see the color designation. So it's easy to be able to walk a site after an install when you're doing a punch list to be able to make sure that they've got the proper specified products on the installation just by looking at the top of that spray body. And then you can also get the color coding on the MP. So uniformity issues, obviously this is kind of what what's driving the MP rotator success, is just being able to achieve this, these water savings and reduce some of these situations, this poor uniformity. Typically we just increase the runtime. It would have been the old solution, and nowadays we've got better options for you. And then winterization is another important thing, especially up in where I'm from. The Great Lakes can be very harsh on any irrigation product, whether it's gear-driven rotors, but especially when you get into some of these smaller, whether it be drip or something like an MP nozzle where you've got just such these small orifices that you're dealing with. And the way that the MP is designed, this viscous fluid that controls our rotational speed, is critical during the winterization process because there's no, the head does not spin when you're winterizing the MP, so you're not damaging the rotational speed control whatsoever, which can happen on other products. So something to remember in the cold climate areas. Just reliability. I think we've kind of, the product has proven itself over the years with durability and just we almost have a zero failure rate. I think it's less than 1% on the MP line. They're just phenomenal when they're out in these kinds of harsh conditions like that. Some advantages from a design standpoint. Easy to design with, and I know that LandFX has incorporated some very unique and very easy to use tools for designing with the MP rotator, which is great. So just a smart design choice for us all. And maybe the last comment on the MP here is just that it is the most highly rebated product in the irrigation industry right now, or I think overall in general, I think. And these types of programs that you're seeing, here's some examples of these, are moving east across the country. I mean, we're starting to see them in the Midwest as municipalities kind of realize the value and they jump on board. And it's been something myself and my teammates and coworkers have been involved with, kind of moving these programs across the country and helping to establish them. So another nice advantage to whether the homeowner or the contractor level, whoever it may be, to get those rebates. Maybe take a quick break. Anything on the MP, Dave? Any questions?
No questions, no.
Okay, excellent. Wanted to, talking about new products, I wanted to just touch base real quickly on our commercial remote control, which we've renamed the Roam XL. We also have a standard Roam, which is more of a residential version, a little bit less range to it. But the Roam XL replaces our ICR handheld remote, and just it was redesigned, much more durable. Water resistance was a key feedback item that we got. We wanted to make it more water resistant for obvious reasons, and programmability, much easier to program. Range was increased slightly, but not really all that much. We're 2-mile range for a device like this is we're at about the max we can achieve without, we are at the max without getting an FCC license. So we're really maxing out a handheld remote of this type without having to get involved with the FCC. Just wanted to point out the difference. You can see the older model there to the right. Just a great an innovation of an already great tool. Again, the contractor tool that I think from a design standpoint, we have a lot of designers like to make sure that this gets specced into the job, into a larger commercial job, so that the end user has the capability to utilize this tool, which can make their life just a lot easier in terms of troubleshooting, programming, changing programming, and doing things in the field. So great tool to have. We just took it and redesigned it, and it is backward compatible. So if you go out and you get a new Roam XL and you've got existing receivers in the field, they will be backwards compatible to those. So you don't have to replace your receivers whatsoever going forward. Wanted to touch on solar panel as well for our XC Hybrid and the Node, which are our two battery-operated controllers, which are, again, great problem solvers, great tools for getting out into whether it be just remote areas, an area that might have been an afterthought that doesn't have power to it, or a streetscape, maybe an island median where it's difficult to trench in power. We've got options for those situations with battery operated, and now what we've done is we've added the solar panel, which again kind of takes away the issue of having to swap out batteries once or twice a year. You don't have to worry about that, and you just install this little solar panel. It's about a 4x4 inch device that just mounts near the controller, and you've got power that way. So that's something I think Dave will touch on that a little bit further from a design standpoint within LandFX.
Sounds good.
So that's available now, and also wanted to just very briefly, we were talking about kind of new products and new additions to the Hunter family. It's something we're really passionate about, and we've really created just a wonderful tool for everybody in the industry, and myself included, anybody that's involved in irrigation. We've got this online training site, which is available to anybody that wants to just jump on and sign up. It's real easy to do, and you can get in and start to take. You can take a little 10 to 15 minute, watch a little video, take a quiz, and what we're trying to do is just get this education level to where we can actually, from a design standpoint, I mean, we could eventually get into a point where when this program, which has been in place now for a good couple of years, contractors and anybody out there, again, myself included, we can attain these levels, these different levels, and people can say, okay, I want, in this installation, we're looking for, a Hunter 2-wire specialist because it's such a high-profile job. We want to make sure we got somebody that's got experience with this product line. So it's a great way to just kind of raise the bar, and it's an easy way to maintain your knowledge level of industry in general and Hunter products. So I wanted to point that out because it's something we're really proud of, and we're spending a lot of time on that and developing that program. And then now getting into the second major product line that we're really excited about is the subsurface irrigation that Hunter has brought to the irrigation industry here in the United States. Really very, again, excited about this because up until the introduction of EcoMat, these are kind of the types of things that we would see, trying to deal with a subsurface, trying to do something subsurface was challenging. Trying to utilize just conventional drip tubing to keep any surface water, out of the design whatsoever. So it was tricky to do, and it was a challenge. But it was becoming more and more prevalent, obviously, with water restrictions and with limiting surface irrigation altogether. We were forced to kind of go in this direction. So and again, these are some of you look at this as a typical slide I think we're all probably familiar with when you're talking just conventional drip tubing, where you get these just little moisture pockets at the emitter. And that's obviously that's how drip works, but you just don't get real even distribution of the moisture. And again, some similar slides kind of showing you if you've got drip installed in a linear fashion there, it just concentrates the precipitation at a point source, and it's difficult to get them to move laterally or vertically in some cases. So hence the introduction of EcoMat. which is taking the whole subsurface and drip irrigation to a whole new level, really, with this specifically engineered combination of inline emitter tubing and fleece, which evenly disperses water from under the surface. So we've got we've got our PLD. So we've got two products here, basically. I don't want to confuse two products that we're talking about here. One is our standard drip line, which is wrapped in this fleece. So for small, tight areas where you're trying to kind of work with a drip application still, but you just need to move water a little better laterally. The ESD, which is the wrapped tubing, could be a great option, and that's what you see there in the center picture by itself. And then what we've done is taken it a step further and attached it to this fleece fabric, which now starts to wick water and provide you a completely saturated area at the optimal root depth for the plant material. See some typical installation here, and you can start to, if you look at that picture closely, you can see the water starting to wick out throughout the whole fabric. And this is something that obviously is critical in the installation process to do this test before the site is backfilled once the EcoMat is installed, to make sure that you've got everything working properly, lines are flushed out, and you've got the emitters soaking the fabric. And a look at again horizontal and vertical movement of water through dense soils or very porous soils is a challenge, as we all know. So trying to the point here is to try to alleviate that challenge and to move water laterally in the soil. And EcoMat not only makes subsurface drip a viable solution, it makes it a great one. Since there's never water on the surface, high traffic turf areas in places like amusement parks, city parks, commercial complexes can be used all day without the need to budget time for overhead irrigation or worry about vandalism, which is also a critical advantage of the EcoMat. And we've chosen for this product, both of these products, we're using the 0.6 GPH emitter on a 12-inch spacing is what is available in the EcoMat.
We do have a question in that maybe this would be on that EcoMat, as Bill asked about root intrusion, which has been a concern of his with any subsurface drip irrigation. How does EcoMat deal with root intrusion?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and I think it deals with it very well, because typically with point source emitters and just in a conventional drip application installation, the roots are all striving to get down to where that water is coming from, which is that little emitter, and they tend to they're all fighting to get to that water source. So obviously we tend to see issues with root intrusion, and that's why. But when you start to work with EcoMat, you start to eliminate that, because you've got a completely saturated layer of moisture, at all points throughout the root zone. So the plants aren't having to go and fight for that fight to get to that emitter. So I think we've seen some great results with some of our beta testing, and I'll show some slides of sites that we've tested where that is virtually eliminated. And again, here's some of the other advantages of why to go to subsurface. And again, with the way that things are being legislated these days, and water restrictions, and basically almost in some cases limiting surface irrigation altogether, we needed some more tools to work with, and I think this will be one of those tools to help us with those challenges. And again, here's the ESD I talked about. Comes in a 250-foot roll. And it just, again, you're just giving that water a little more time to be able to wick out and move laterally within the soil before heading south and possibly being wasted, not getting to the roots of the plants, which is where we want them. And then the EcoMat, which is available in a 32-foot wide by 290-foot roll. So you've got a 785 square foot area that can be covered with one roll. You see some pricing information there, which basically translates to about $2.53 per square foot material cost, just as a reference. But again, that's based on list price, Hunter list price. Get a lot of questions about where does this product get installed, how does it get installed, and this kind of illustrates, gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. For turf installations, typically we see about 4 to 6 inches, closer to 4 typically is what I've seen for good, just great results with that. And then what you're doing is you get into some perennials, some smaller shrub plantings, 8-inch depth, and the larger shrubs would be a 12-inch depth typically. And what needs to be kept in mind here is just that there will need to be some temporary surface irrigation while the plants are getting established during that establishment period to get those roots down to the ecomat. So that's one of the critical things that needs to be considerations when installing ecomat or designing with ecomat, is that will be necessary. And then here is a installation actually at Dick Hunter's home. Just recently retired president of Hunter Industries was kind enough to let us tear up his yard and install some ecomat to be just for some testing. So ripped out a good portion here right next to the hardscape of the pool, and you can see the installation. There's some more shots of that. Typically, both of these products are held in place using just some stainless steel staples or some sod stakes just to hold in place during the installation process. But you can see the water wicking there on the left. After about 3 minutes, you can see each of the emitters starting to saturate the fabric, and then about 24 minutes into the runtime, you've got a pretty much saturated the entire fabric, which is again just an ideal situation for a planter of this nature where you've got some similarly sized plant material. And here you can see after the amended soil was replaced, plant material was laid out, and about 6 months later, this is the finished product. So really, plant material is thriving, and we've got some turf areas installed at the Hunter factory as well, where we're seeing just fantastic results. And there's sites around the country now that have been the jobs that have gone in the last year or so, again with really positive results. Run times are critical, as with any drip product. It's important to calculate and establish those run times, because once that fabric is saturated, anything else above and beyond that is just going to be it's going to end up being wasted. Same as with drip, conventional drip. So that runtime is still very critical to establish. And cycle and soak is an important tool here obviously with any drip, is to be able to try to incorporate that that function of most of the Hunter controllers, is to be able to utilize that to your advantage and really optimize the performance of the ecomat. Some examples of some other similar installations. This is in California. There's some turf application, looking for net zero, waste type homes. One of the builders out west utilized the ecomat. Here's a PLD ESD application where you're really trying to isolate the water into these tight areas, these grass pave installations. So another possible solution. And here's an install at Camp Pendleton in California, a 1.2 acre rooftop application with the ecomat. You see that going into place there. So really, we're seeing, and of course, rooftops are obviously one of the main. I'm here in Chicago, where the rooftops are just, there's an explosion of rooftop gardens being put in over the last 5-6 years, and they've all been challenging. I mean, each one of those is, you kind of have to look at them individually, but they're always a challenge to irrigate. I think most of you would agree, and I think this just gives us another tool in that rooftop toolbox to try to work with some of those challenges. So it's it's not going to be perfect for every installation, but it gives us some more options. Here's another tight installation here. Gives us a really, it'd be tough on the picture on the right there. It'd be tough to do that with any other surface irrigation, obviously. So the EcoMat, great solution for that tight area. And you can see the installation there. Again, just fabulous root development. You've got healthier roots. You've got. You also have the ability to utilize like a fertigation type system and injection systems, because you're minimizing your waste. You're not broadcasting that through the at the surface. You're not using the granular type, so you can really dial in the exact amounts that you need and save on materials that way, if that's something they're interested in. The client is interested in using. Some examples.
We do have a couple of questions.
Okay, go right ahead.
There. One is, you had mentioned temporary irrigation with the EcoMat. Do you have any recommendations for that, or that was the question?
Mm-hmm.
And then another one is, we would need a list of existing installations for examples, I'm assuming then, to give to the owner to say, here are some sample situations. And the question is, where would we get that? So two questions there.
Yeah, and very good questions. As far as a reference list of projects, we can your local Hunter rep can certainly provide that for you. I don't know if we've got anything on the website currently. I would have to go back and check on it, but I know that we can provide it for you easily just by talking with your local rep. And then the other question, as far as the temporary irrigation, I would say just either hand watering with using hoses and sprinklers that way, or certainly just conventional drip tubing set up above grade for a temporary setup would also work. That way it could be tied into the system that's installed already. It just depends on the level of the manpower that's available to do something like that. But again, we're talking about probably a 3 or 4 month period of time where that needs to be done, depending on the climate and the location of the site. But it is very critical, because you won't have that EcoMat's not going to be doing its job for that first establishment period, that initial period. So we want to make sure we don't leave those plants high and dry, so to speak. I want to take a second here and just jump back. I want to show you. I want to go over to the Hunter website. That reminded me, and I appreciate that. I wanted to. I'm going to show you kind of how easy it is to navigate the Hunter site. You go in here to products, over to the EcoMat, and we've got some things, the resources here for you. Right here, we can look at. We've got some installation specifications, written specifications. We've got installation details in all different formats, whatever might work. But again, just some real good resources for whether it be contractors or designers, just to kind of look at, what might be involved with this particular, installation. So let's just take an example here, just as far as how an installation would typical would look, and your drip zone kit and the EcoMat. Just again, very similar to a standard irrigation drip irrigation layout. But again, just some tools, reference tools for you to be able to reference real easily on the website. We also have on the EcoMat site here, you will see under resources. Oops, I went one back too far. You'll see a complete design guide, which again would be kind of a nice tool. With this being an entirely new product category, basically for all of us, we've put together a complete design guide, which really gets into some really, you kind of keep at your desk, at your drawing table, as you're doing your first couple of designs with EcoMat. This has got some great information within it. So just wanted to point those out. I mean, that they are available on the Hunter website. I'll get back to this. Okay, these were some examples of just the kind of tight, challenging sites where EcoMat could really be a problem solver, where you've got just whether it be poor soils, limited access, zero irrigation, so restriction on surface irrigation, sloped areas, and again, if vandalism is an issue, then this is certainly a product to be considered. because everything's below grade, so you have nothing above grade that can be tampered with whatsoever. Bear with me a second here. Frozen up here for a second. There we go. Again, just some of the benefits. You have no water loss due to the wind, obviously. Evaporation becomes a non-issue. 100% water distribution down below grade. No runoff. Any time of the day, you don't have to worry about water windows. And again, no water on the hardscape whatsoever, which is can be really critical in a lot of public spaces these days. And I will close with that our PLD and these products are all built here in the United States in San Marcos, so it's just really something we're very proud of as well. You've got some of these projects that are federally funded that require the Made in the USA. There's a program for that where we can provide documentation to help out with those installs as needed. So with that, I thank you for your time. I hope that was helpful.
That was very helpful. Thanks very much. We don't have any other questions. I just have a comment myself, is that I know, depending on the agency, a local agency here requires you cannot have spray irrigation within at least 2 feet of a curb or sidewalk for obvious reasons. And so even if you have a turf area that you are either spraying or rotors or whatever, you still have to use some sort of situation if, let's say, that turf area comes to the curb, and even other planting. So any planting cannot have spray within 2 feet, and then that varies from agency, but this becomes real valuable for many reasons on there. So what I want to do is I want to show you some of those things. They're very exciting. I want to put them in. I have a new project here that I'm going to add to it. I'm going to go to the Irrigation Manager, and the first thing I want to put in is a head, just to show you this MP Rotator and how it operates. So I'm going to add a head. The type I'm going to add would be rotary, either turf or shrub rotary, not spray or rotor. Those are 3 different ways to look at it. And rotary, you know, while it says MP Rotator, there's actually terms to describe those are rotator, rotary, rotating, that sort of thing. There's no set way to describe those, but this is rotary, a shrub rotary. If I say OK, I will see manufacturers. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I have to restart this. The meeting interfered with that. Let me open that up again and get that project going here. And I do need to set a scale. So I'm going to add again to that a shrub rotary. I see the manufacturers. I'm going to go to Hunter, and this is the only real option for a body is on the PRS 40 body. That's really the recommended one by Hunter. That seems the most logical, and that's what we're offering to you. If I click on that, I will get options for that body, meaning a fixed riser, 6 or 12-inch pop-up. You know, you pick it. I'm going to say I want a 12-inch pop-up, but I also want it with a check valve on here. Highlighting that, I'll add it to my project. We do default to a pressure. You can use other pressures. Obviously, with this 40, you want at least 40 psi as your design pressure, which guarantees the last head will get 40 psi, and we'll watch out for any loss to get there for you. I'm going to say, okay, you can do a radius reduction. I don't think that's really quite necessary for the MP rotator, and add those in. It gets added in, but notice what it added in was the corner, the strip, the 1, 2, 3000, and the 3500. They all get added in. They're all ready to go. They are actually 6 different models get added in all at once and ready to use. And by using, you would click on the button to place a head, and the specific button you're clicking on here, the first few are for spray heads, and then right here in the middle are other types of heads, bubblers, impacts, etc. And this one right here, this button, is for the rotary. So if I click on that, I've added a shrub. If I also added to this project a turf rotary, it would list all of those options, only it would say after the particular model, it would say turf rotary on here, so you can identify the difference between them. Now there's a lot to add here. Which one do I place and how do I place it? Make life easy for yourself. I just go right in the middle, the 2000, and I'm not even worried about the nozzle, and I'll show you why. I'm just going to place a 2000, I see it, and then I see a target. Now, what we have, and we developed this specifically because of the MP rotator. We now make this technology available for all our heads, but we have keyboard commands because you need to go, well, which one is it? The 1, 2, or 3000? Is it the corner? Is it the 3500 I want? Let me see physically what it is. Well, you can get these keyboard commands. If you want to see them, hit K for keyboard commands, and you can see what they are. The 2 that are quite usable are the first 2, smaller or larger radius, but you can change variety of things just by clicking these particular keys. So I can look at this and hit those key Q to drop it down to a 1000. Of course, that's smaller, to see how that fits in this particular area, or E to bring it up to a 2000 or 3000 or 3500. And so you get a preview of what those do, and the objective is to get the one that best suits you. If you're going to put in a full circle, you just click where you want it. Instead of defining the arc, you right-click, and that will put in a full circle. That particular nozzle, as there are 3 nozzles, 3 different colors that make up each of those 1, 2, and 3000, we put in the correct one. So if I were to put in a part circle, let's say I define and I start at some point, I cannot make it less than 90 degrees. The reason is that particular thing is not available less than 90. It starts at 90. If you want less than 90, you've got to put in a quarter head. So I can then start to define it. Now, it does have 3 nozzles. In other words, 90 to 210, so I'll just pick sort of that. It puts in the correct nozzle. If I go beyond 210, it will shift to, let me go beyond 210 here. It'll shift automatically to the appropriate nozzle for that. And it will not allow me to go beyond 270 because that is the limitation of that head. So we kind of cover you, making sure you do not exceed what that particular head can do. So I can hit E and go to the 3000 and do exactly the same sort of things, and it will color code those with a basically a letter indicating yellow or blue or black or that sort of thing, and that shows up on the schedule. If I go to the 3500 and I go to place it and I right-click, it doesn't do anything. It disappears because the 3500 is right now only available from 90 to 210. So I'm going to go back to here and place that 3500 and start it. And you see I'm starting at 90 and I can put one in, but I can't go beyond 210. So in other words, we sort of watch out for you in placing those so that you can easily just drop these in where they need to be, and then easily move between one radius to another, or the 1, 2, 3000 series and the 3500. You can easily jump back and forth, and we just watch you every step of the way. This is the precip rate, though, is matching between, basically matching between all of these, so you can mix and match these together. And the amount of, let's see, I have a couple of different ones here, slightly different. If I go to the info on this particular head, it is using 0.9473 GPM, and here's a similar one with a little bit larger arc pattern, and it's 1.1025 GPM. In other words, we do all the calculations for you as to what the actual flow is for that arc pattern that you put on there. And if you're to run a schedule of this just to see what we get for what we've put on here, it'll list, you know, quantities on there, what you've used in particular for this particular project so far on here. Now, the other thing that was added to this project, which I really like, is in auxiliary equipment. It was that roaming, the Roam XL, and that is not a head or a valve. It is auxiliary equipment. It is related to a controller accessory. Now, the Roam XL was that little handheld device that you can control the controller as you're roaming around. I tell you what I do with county, city, parks, clients for that, or school districts. I ask them, hey, do you want me to include one of these? Because often they don't have the money in their budget to go buy these, but while there is a project being built, there could be money very easily in that. It helps facilitate the project. It helps the contractor manage, let's say, a pretty big project. It gives him the tools, and then you turn around and submit that tool to the owner after the contractor hands over the maintenance to them. So if I go to controller accessories on here, and I go over to Hunter, there's a variety of things in there, and I'm just going to scroll down to that particular one. Here we are. Here's the Roam, and here's the Roam XL. You can check on the list prices of those. I know they used to be around $1,500. These are much cheaper. The Roam XL, I think, is in the $800 range. I'm not sure about the Roam. Do you remember, Eric, what the Roam price sort of is?
Yeah, I believe just a little bit less than $300 list price.
And that would be very cool for a residential project. And, you know, many of my clients who are residential just love the little technology things I can give them. So they really like that. And it makes them, you know, they can just walk around and turn valves on, turn them off, test things out, that kind of thing. But if I were to do the Roam XL, I would click on that. There is a variety of things you can add, the transmitter, the receiver, etc. I'm going to pick the transmitter receiver. Let's see, wiring harness included on here. Now, Eric, let me ask you, is that the one I would pick for, I'm not sure what controller I have. I haven't added one.
Yeah, that'll work with any Hunter controller that has a smart port, which is all of our controllers basically. So you'd and then that's a kit where you get everything you need. If you just happen to be a contractor and you already have a receiver, so to speak, you could actually just order the remote itself.
I see.
Not get the whole
okay.
Kit.
So this is the transmitter, the receiver, and a smart port wiring harness. This kit really is everything. Would that
correct.
be fair?
Yeah, that's everything. Yep.
Okay.
Turnkey.
I'm going to add that in, and let me just pretend I have a controller down here somewhere, and I'm going to place that next to the controller. Here's how I would specify it into my particular project. I would go to place auxiliary equipment, which this was. I've already added a meter to this, and there's my controller. Remote, and in placing it, it's just going to give me something where I can identify what it is with a letter, and I would place that maybe near where the controller is. It's going to show up on the schedule. It'll show up on the job. Well, what you can do is you can edit it, and then there's a description right here, and you can add to that description or at the start of the description what the contractor is to submit this to the owner at the end of the project, something to let them know. But they're going to get this in the bid because this is going to show up on the schedule, and there might be there might be other things that relate to the controller as accessories, as little small boxes or whatever that have a letter in them, one or more letters to define what they are. It's just a real convenient, easy way to specify that in a project, and I have to reiterate that the larger clients I have, really, the maintenance people really remember me when I ask them if that would help them, because it allows them tools that this is the only way they can get them. Now, if I had a controller that was a battery-operated controller, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to go to auxiliary equipment and add one of those. Here's a controller, and I'm going to go to Hunter on here, and I'm going to scroll down. There's a variety of things going on here. I'm going to go down to this XC hybrid. Now, this is a battery-operated one. If I scroll up a little bit, this node is also battery. It's 1 to 6 stations. I really like this one right here because it's really substantial. It goes up to 12 stations. It's really going to fit the bill for situations with batteries, although batteries sort of scare me because what happens if the battery sort of dies on you and the maintenance people didn't replace it? That's where I'm kind of liking this solar thing. But I'm going to go ahead and add whatever this may be, 12-station outdoor stainless cabinet. I'll add that to my project. Any controller that has accessories to it, it'll ask this. You can always say, no, I don't want to go to accessories. Or you can always do what I did earlier, which is I went and added right from accessories. But I'm going to visit accessories right now for this. And there's a variety of them there, so I'm going to scroll down. Obvious ones might be this, rain sensors and things like that, or it might be this, Roam XL. But right here is the solar panel kit, so I'm going to click on that, and this is for the XC hybrid controller. There is the particular model, and I'll add it to the project. So I've added a couple of things. Now let me place the couple of things by going to placing auxiliary equipment. Now this list is growing. So I've got my 12-station controller. Let me place it. Let's say, for the sake of argument, it's going right here. And I have this solar panel. And you see, we're just simply doing similar to what we did here with an accessory. We just changed geometry. And there's a variety. You can add quite a few of these on there. And then we have the different geometry with a shadow or something. We changed that. Let's pretend this is going on the roof, nearby right here, and give it a letter to define it, just the S on here. And I would put a note indicating where I want that to be mounted, how, I'm going to connect up to this controller, etc. But if I run my schedule now, I've already got a I'll just simply regenerate the schedule. And you can see I've added to that this controller, and then it lists these accessories on here, which is really what they are. I've got a transmitter, I've got a solar kit, and you, of course, can edit just simply by editing the equipment what this text is as you need to for your particular situation. So those add real easy, and I think those are very valuable things on there. The EcoMat is very interesting. Let me open up a drawing for that. I'm going to go to one where I've defined some areas with drip, and I just want to make that same, let's say that same project active for here. And I just want to make sure I got a scale. There's my project. I've defined these areas on any layer. I happen to do it on layer 0. I drew polylines around where I want that to go. So let me add to that project. I'm going to go to my irrigation manager. I've already added this. Let me go to drip. I previously added a valve, a drip valve kit with pressure regulator and filter on it. So now I'm going to add some other drip equipment by clicking New, and that is going to be an area for drip line. That's specifically where that Ecomat goes in this category of equipment here. If I say OK, hold on a second. Sorry about that. Could it be? Let me do that again. Okay, I'm set there. I've got my project set again. I'm going to add drip line and I'm going to pick Hunter. And this is alphabetical. Ecomat starts with an E, so it's at the top of the list, and then there's the other drip line that Hunter offers. So I'm going to pick the Ecomat. It does come in one flavor, basically, 0.6 GPH emitters at 12 inches on center along the line, and the drip laterals are spaced typically at 14 inches apart. Obviously in the field, if you make them a little tighter, there's just a little more overlap of the Ecomat. So let me go ahead and add that. Go ahead, Katie.
Dave, can you actually go back to that, please? I just wanted to show the clients and specifiers that when you do click on Hunter, and at the very bottom you can scroll down because it is two different products. The Ecomat itself is more like the blanket, and if you go all the way down to the bottom, the PLD ESD is sort of this picture that you see. It's sort of like a hot dog in a bun, and it doesn't include the blanket portion of it. And I just wanted to show them that there are
okay.
these
I
two.
wasn't familiar.
So the
Good
Ecomat
job,
is
Katie.
an additional.
So this first one up here includes the blanket and the drip line, correct? If I scroll down here,
it's because it's alphabetical, and that's why the other one's down at the bottom.
well, I mean, but this is simply drip line with a sock around it, so to speak.
Fleece, yeah.
And then you can get them at 12 inches on center or 18 inches on center or 24. And then this last one down here, what is the difference between this one and the first one? Oh, no Ecomat blanket included. More like a hot dog in a bun. Okay.
That's
So the one I'm specifying, I'm assuming, is this one right here with the Ecomat.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's a great new product.
Okay. There it is with that row spacing. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the project, give it a pressure, which I think is an appropriate design pressure for it, and then I'm going to place that. And the way I would place it is I'm still clicking on the button for placing head because it has place head / emitter. It's like application device. And that's where we placed the rotary. And if I go a little bit further, I can click on the button for area for drip line, which is what I've got. And there it is. Now, to place it, you highlight it because there may be more than one thing in here, and you get a pick box, and you're going to pick on that bounding line you drew around that particular area. But you want to pick on a particular line that will indicate, at least graphically, the direction of this drip line that you're trying to communicate to the contractor. So I'm going to pick this line going up and down here, and what it does is it will put in there a hatch pattern. These are not 14 inches apart, it's just graphics, but it is graphics indicating the direction of this particular drip line. So I'm just going to go along and put that in where I want it to go. Now this U shape, I would want perhaps some drip line to go that way and some to go lengthways here. It goes in very, very quickly as you're clicking on these lines and these boundaries that you determined, but I think I would plan ahead when I draw that is to say, how do I want to graphically show how these are going on there? Now, after I place a lot of these, I think one thing I would do is I would do a circuiting, and for drip area specifically, or actually what I'm going to do is a flow total first. So you don't even have to worry about that. I just want to see what I got in this whole project, and I've got 29 GPM. This becomes important because you can see I've used almost 30 GPM in just this area. So it's not that it doesn't use water. It's going to be putting water down in 30 GPM. If I go to place my valve, and placing a valve, this is for placing heads right here, I have to go over to these buttons for placing, you know, valves and heads, auxiliary equipment. Well, drip equipment is not quite just a valve, so we put a special button for it, placing drip equipment, because there's other types of equipment besides emitters that you may want to place. But I added this valve in here. It was a Hunter PCZ valve kit, but we always mention what the range of GPM that is appropriate for those particular valves, 0.5 to 15 GPM. That's what the manufacturer recommends. I kind of want to stick to that. That is suggesting I'm going to have two valves here. So I do have to go to circuiting, and I do have to go to drip area and do a zone and define, you know, and I can put these zones in and erase them, do whatever I need to. That one has 12. Let me do another zone over here. Around this particular area, that one has 17. So I realize, aha, this is exceeding that. 15 GPM, maybe it's not so much that I'm worried about it, but at least I can circuit these on here. And now I'll come in and put valves to those and pipe to those. And the way with drip line you would do that is you're going to be placing this drip equipment, this particular valve, put it wherever you think is appropriate for it, and let's just say for the sake of argument I have two valves that will work. And the way I connect those valves with them is I simply go to piping, so I'm going to click on the piping button, placing pipe, doing all kinds of fancy stuff with pipe. The first button is draw a pipe. I'm going to pick that valve, and what I have to do is go in and die into each of these, and then it'll pick it up. So the way I would do it is I would say, well, I know I'm going to have a header at each end. Where do I want the contractor to pipe into there? And let's just say I want to end there. Now that valve is picking up this area simply because I piped into it and stopped. What I can use this highlight station frequently and click on the valve, and it says there's the valve. That's what it's connecting to. What I wouldn't do to connect to this second valve is I wouldn't like pipe and then leave this and go into there and say, aha, they're connected. They're not, because if I do this highlight station, they are not connected. That's not an appropriate way to go, and by the way, that isn't the way I would do it no matter what. I would also not continue from here and go into this second area, because if I do highlight station, it's not picking up the first area because you got to die into it. You don't continue from it. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase that. This is stopping into there. So what I really would do is I would go from this valve and stop into here somehow, maybe like that, and then I'll continue from here and stop into that one. Now I use highlight station to realize I've picked up this one. I have to repipe that. because I screwed it up there. That's why Highlight Station is so valuable with this. I see, I've picked up those 3 on there. And by the way, this at the AutoCAD command line, since I highlighted a valve, it says how much GPM 12.27 is connected to this valve. So I can size this pipe just by going, size lateral pipe. I'll just size it up, and it gives it sizes on there. This was 3/4 inch. And this was a 1 inch coming, quite frankly, from a 1 inch valve, so that's pretty good. And I can, label that valve, and it now has pressure, a flow assigned to it, etc. That is a quick and easy way to put in drip line and manage that GPM, which you absolutely have to do on there. So those were the 3 types of equipment that the several types of equipment that Eric showed us. I think they have a lot of value and quite interesting for our clients. Do we have any other questions, Katie?
No, not as of yet.
Okay, if that's the case, then I want to thank Eric for donating his time to help communicate the stuff that Hunter has, and I want to wish everyone a great weekend, and thanks for attending.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dave.
Well, thank you very much. Everybody have a great day.
You too. Thank you, everyone.